We back, gang. Episode five. Episode
Ooh.
five. We just posted episode four, so if you haven't gone to check that out, go on Spotify, YouTube, Going Pro, powered by Dog Pound Athletics. Welcome back to the podcast. Still gonna hit up June about the little intro thing. That'd be sick.
Yeah, that'd be fire.
That'd be sick. That'd be sick.
You can ask AI or June, whatever.
You're
Whatever's
gonna teach me how
clever.
to use AI.
Yeah, my God. Hey, where are you right now? You at a fraternity house? What's up the background?
Bro, I'm in a secret area that nobody knows.
Undisclosed location.
Undisclosed location.
Yes. What's that smell? This is like something happening here, bro.
Yo,
Something happening here, my guy.
all right. So, going off of our last podcast and kind of how I wanted to start to gear again this podcast about going pro and how I want to reach high school, college, pro level athletes and parents that have a bunch of questions and how to get them to understand all these things that are going on in our head to make them the best players in the world. Uh, Today, we're going to talk about how an athlete can best deal with pressure and emotions when either college recruiters or pro scouts will come to watch their games. I think it's super valuable and something that never really gets talked about in the industry where everyone just talks about all the physical attributes and what we need to look like, what we need to throw, what we need to squat, whatever it is, but no one's talking about what goes on between the dome. And again, if you watch the last podcast, you would hear that this mental part of the game will take you way farther than your physical attributes. Um,
Juan disagreed, but
Juan disagreed, but it was 2v1, so uh, I guess we take the win on that. I guess we
I
take the
don't
win
know.
on that.
I'm down. I'm down to do 2v1.
Um, so I bring up this conversation because there's been a bunch of recent players that are currently going through this situation where college recruiters, pro guys are coming to their games, and me thinking about like, am I doing my job as a strength coach to get them mentally prepared for what they're actually going through or what they're going to be feeling during that pressure situation? Um, and I think for me, the biggest one is trying to understand yourself before anything else. If you don't know what makes you tick or you don't understand what that pressure feels like, then at the end of the day, you'll always fold and then you'll never grow to become better mentally because you haven't found out internally what makes you feel pressure or that performance anxiety that, let's be honest, all of us feel. We all have felt that in some sort of way during our playing careers. Um, so,
What do you see happening right now?
so right now, again, because a lot of important people are coming out to these athletes' games, they start to try to do too much, right? So they put all the work in, they put all the effort in the weight room, practice, sleep, nutrition, all that stuff. But when it comes down to game time, they're not able to express their true self, and they play okay, but they don't play at their best. That's what I'm seeing right now.
And so, not playing at their best means what? Are they like? Is there errors? They missing stuff? Are they what is the actualization and the performance aspect that is happening when the pressure is on?
Mm. So they'll either, let's just use pitchers as an example. They'll either lose their command, their velocity then goes down. Um,
What does losing their command mean? Sorry.
oh, sorry, soccer player. They're just not throwing strikes. So the catcher throws the mid up, and they're not able to hit that spot every time. They'll be up and in, down and away, missing left, missing right,
They're
up,
not synced
down.
in with their
They're not
catcher.
synced in with their catcher.
Okay.
Exactly. And so they're missing the command part of it. And then also their velocity is dropping. Not a lot, but it's not to the point of their best. Their best. That's what I'm saying.
And mentally, internally, when you're having those conversations, what are they telling you that happens?
They usually don't know what's happening. So
Okay, I
they'll
like that.
usually they'll usually we usually start this conversation with, well, what's going on? Like, how did the game go? And they'll tell me how their game went, and then I'll assess their performance, and then they assess their performance, and they usually say it was okay, it wasn't good, it wasn't great, for sure wasn't my best, but like I got the job done. And because they're such great athletes, they can perform at that level pretty consistently, but they haven't reached that peak that we're trying to get them to reach more consistently at that level. So
Are
then
they trying hard and then it's not being able to be executed, or are they not trying hard enough?
they're trying too hard,
They're trying too hard.
trying way too hard, which is the external factor of usually these athletes will know who's coming to that game. So if UCLA is coming, if pro scouts will be there. I mean, there's uh, people that I train that you'll see 30 pro scouts with a gun, and like they're right behind him or in front of him. So every time he throws the ball, you'll just see 30 guns go up, and you know what a scout looks like. So they know that they're there to
So it's
be.
hilarious. So this is actually like in the movies. This is what's happening in real life.
Yes, exactly. Like
That's
Moneyball. Like
hilarious.
it's
Yeah,
literally, it is
yeah.
literally that. So what's happening is they know that they're coming. So the trigger that I hear a lot is today's a big game. This is a huge game.
And in your head, what should that phrase be?
It's another day.
Hmm.
It's another day.
How would you advise for them to get to that point, and what needs to happen?
I think the conversation that you and me just had downstairs,
Huh.
which is
Cheat sheet.
if you always practice hard and practice to be great every single day, that game feels like nothing. It just feels like a normal day. But it's those that don't practice or practice greatness all the time. When that big moment comes, you feel all the pressure, the anxiety, the eyeballs, the attention focused on you. And then internally, you don't know how to react because it's a different uh, surrounding environment that you've never been in. So then your body freaks out or your mental freaks out. Then it affects your body. And that's why their performance ends up dwindling, in my opinion.
Going back a couple steps, and I'll come back to this one.
Cool.
I think one strategy that I use, whether it's mentoring someone or an athlete, is first asking them how they think it went. And from it gives you insight to their own perspective.
Mhm.
Then I ask, how did it actually go?
Mhm. No, for real.
And so, like,
Yeah.
did you hit balls? So, okay, so, and the reality of it is you did good because you didn't fuck up.
Mhm.
And then, so then it leaves you with why did you not do great, which was the task that you needed to, which is the conversation that we were having.
Mhm.
So it helps on our side as a coach to clarify each of those because there's something that happened in their brain and then what actually happened in real life. And sometimes those two are not in sync. So then it leaves me with thinking about how do we kind of combine both of those? And it was the conversation that we were having earlier. So what is greatness all the time mean? I think everyone does really hard and tries really hard when they're at practice, whether it's sport practice or when they're in the gym with you. That one's a given. The deficit, I think, is they're not thinking about the time in between. So as soon as you wake up, a practice that I like to do, regardless of who it is, I am great, I am great, I am great, I am great. And you repeat it to yourself, or you write it, or you text someone, or you text yourself, or you post about it. The way that I trigger and do my thing is I post about the time that I wake up every single day. And then I trigger myself into greatness. And then, so it just feels normal to be in that state all the time. And I force that upon myself and then everyone around me. And so that's how I create this little room of energy.
Mhm.
They haven't practiced doing that because they've been a great athlete their whole life and just been counting on the vision and the dream. But if we are to try to go pro, the difference is now you start thinking about it all the time. You hear the stories of Jordan and Kobe and how they spoke to themselves, that dialogue that goes inside of their head. Like that's literally what's going on. Or they're coming up with stories so that they can push themselves to be great. Whether then their stories are a little scary. They're more on the negative side. But a good start is this silly affirmation thing that feels icky at first, but then once you start believing and it becomes part of your language and your aura and your actions at every step of your day, when that moment comes, you've already been putting that pressure on yourself. And I think even it's hilarious, and I know baseball players are superstitious, but like that picture, like okay, then let's get a gun out every time you're getting closer. So you're triggering that gun to put you into that flow state. And you're like,
Mm,
oh, that's what turns on me being in the game. There's also, I imagine pitchers or everyone in baseball does this because it's the sport. I know golf does it. I know archery does it. They clear the mechanism and they just zone everything out and then bring awareness.
mm,
It's like what happens in meditation. You silence everything and then you start paying attention to your breathing, your heart rate, all the sounds in the stadium or at practice, how you're feeling inside to yourself. Where are my teammates? Where's the pressure on my feet? Where's my weight shifted? I'm zoned in. I have to throw the ball there. Go. Boom. Boom. Instead of what I think good and great happens, you're just showing up, you caught the ball, okay, I'm going to pitch again. What's the command? And trying to go. So you
mm.
like have to put this glorified, sacred energy moment for that moment instead of just walking to the plate. Like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You've had to be in that position of greatness before. So when the time comes, when that opportunity comes, you get lucky. That's the lucky part. You've already done the reps.
Mm,
Or you shit the bed and you're just good.
yeah. I think it's the word you said that I thought of when you said flow state. And I had a conversation with someone earlier today actually, which is like, how do you find that flow state? He even said like, I'm trying to find this flow
I like
state.
that.
And I was like, that's super mature out of you, first of all, really mature. And I think that's the question. How do we find that flow state?
Okay, you've gotten there, so how do you do it?
For me, I think about because I practice greatness all the time, at least for me when I was playing, is I was always busting my ass, doing the most, practicing 3, 4 times a day, knowing that I've done put all the work in to know that anything can happen in baseball. Anything, it's out of my control. It's basically out of my control. What happens, there's so many external factors that I can only control what I can control inside of my head and my thought process. And something that I've seen a lot of successful players do, and I've talked to a lot of the pro guys, named Johnny Tincher, for example, is when he has a big moment in a game and he starts to feel his heart rate rise, he will step out of the box, take one deep breath, and then he'll stare at his bat to lock himself back into that flow state of I'm just seeing nothing but the bat and locking himself in mentally to find that. And then he says, I don't know if this is true. You might know this, but I guess a coach told him never breathe through your mouth, only breathe through your nose because it locks your eyes in more. So then what he does is he just shuts his mouth. He takes another deep breath in through his nose and he just, and that's how he finds his flow state within that moment.
Okay, regardless of whether the breathing mechanics lock your eyes in or not, he's triggering himself,
Mhm.
right? It could be anything. He could pick his nose and
Facts.
do the same thing, I think was the point of that.
Oh, exactly.
He has
Exactly.
found that breathing mechanism, it also slows his heart rate down,
Mm.
right? So it slows it down, get the nerves out, calm, focus with my task. I will do that task, and then you go out.
Mm.
No control. Like, I don't understand how you would expect a better result to happen.
Mm.
You said something that's what is within your control and what's out of your control. We had a conversation earlier, and you even said the fitness or the physical element of it before. So being in greatness and practicing greatness all the time looks like you're doing that, and one of the things is that you can control how hard and how intentional your training is. So really, just like in strength and conditioning, you're going to default to the level that of your training.
Mm.
So if you haven't practiced it, need to get that default higher. So when the time comes, it's so good that you're not even thinking about it. You surrender to the work that you've already done. You're like, I can't do anything else at this point. I'm just going to be okay with the skills that I have. And so
Mhm.
the test is the process before and all the training before. You're not going to not do the training and then show up that day.
There's no
Like,
shot.
no shot.
There's no shot.
So you're only left with doing the work beforehand, putting intention to it, and then just at the day of, I surrender to the results that are going to happen today. I've known that I know that I've already done the work, so everything else is irrelevant. I'm clear and I can just be in flow. I can just be in the moment because I enjoy the sport.
Yeah.
Like, and then the scout thing, like you can't control the finances and politics behind the scenes anyway, so
Okay.
that's out of your control. You can't control your teammates' abilities. The only thing that you can do is control your body and telling yourself that this is the greatest version of me, and then just give in to that, and that's when like the magic happens.
Yeah. And I think going back to what you said in the weight room and how you train every day is if you push yourself to be great with by yourself or with a group, that translates to how you feel on the field, which is Lucas always tells me how he feels confidence is he knows he's the hardest mother effer on the field. He's like, no one, he's like, I know deep down in my soul, no one is doing all the things that I'm doing. And he's grown so much with 30 minutes before we work out, coming to the stretch,
My guy.
staying 30 minutes
Shout out
after.
Lukey. That's my
Shout out
guy.
to Lukey,
There we go.
staying 30 minutes after to stretch, dieting, locked in with his diet. He got a whoop, tracking his sleep. He's not going out anymore. He is
Locked
fully
in.
locked in, and he knows that everyone on that field at that moment is not doing what he's doing. And he's told me, he's like, that's what gives me the confidence. Because I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
like you pitching all these big, you know, regional games. He's pitching the College World Series, and I'm like, well, how do you deal with that? Because
He's
like
already done the work.
I couldn't like because I was like I'm trying to understand this. Like, how do you deal with that? Like, I think it's amazing that you can. He goes, it's an everyday thing, dog. If I do it every single day and I know that I put in the work, no one's gonna outwork me. And I can literally stare at that hitter and look him dead ass in the eye and be like, you're not fucking beating me because you haven't put in the work that I have. You're fucking lazy, and I'm gonna fucking show you right now with my effort.
Hmm.
So going back to the training side, that's how it has to be. And he is the most. I mean, they're all the programs. They're all super competitive, and it's hard to channel the competitiveness sometimes. But if someone jumps higher, lifts heavier, the next moment they go to lift, put that shit back on. I'm hitting that, and
I love
you're like that's
it.
not what you're supposed to be like. I don't care. I
I
don't.
miss
I'm
athletes.
gonna hit it, and you're like, all right. But it's that
They're practicing it right there.
yes, that's the moment of nah, I got this. Like watch me work. Like let me be great in this moment. And then for me, I'm like, okay, just like
Don't get hurt. Don't get
it's a
hurt.
safety thing. It's a safety thing,
Don't get hurt.
and it's hard to toggle with, but it's something that separates them from the college guys, for sure the high school guys. Of when the college guys come in, there's a measuring stick. The pro guys purposely challenge the college guys. Be like, let's go. You said you want to work out with us, right? Let's go. Show me what you got. And then I will see in that moment whether that kid goes, let's go, or he goes, I'm just gonna stay within myself, and and you're like, as a strength coach, I want him to stay because I don't want him to get hurt, right? But as a mentor, you're like, put that shit on the fucking bar, dog. Come on, fucking show him. He's challenging you. They're being tough on you. It's the rite of passage. You want to earn my respect? Show me with your work. That's basically what it is.
And they're doing him a favor, that person a favor.
Yes, and it's a
They
huge
don't know that
favor.
they're doing them a favor.
Yeah,
They're
and
giving them an alley-oop.
they're too young to understand. They're like, man, like they're just me, and you're like, no,
What, bro?
that's called
No.
respect.
That's the world.
That's the best. If someone did that to me, that's respect. That means they're like, all right, like let me push you the way I was pushed. Show me what you got. And they're too young to understand that, but hopefully at one day they will.
Yeah.
But
Also, what's happening to Lucas because he's done the work already is that he doesn't have to try when that moment appears.
No,
It's already there.
it's already there.
Where everyone else that kind of chokes or has that anxiety is trying. That's the difference. You need to get to the
Hmm.
level where you're not
Hmm.
trying. That's just who you are.
Yeah. And I wanted to go back to that conversation. It's good that you brought that up. Like, we're not saying, we're not saying to try. We're not saying that. You try during the workouts, during the training, during the practices. When you get on the field, that's when you flow state. That's when you just go and compete. If you've done the groundwork beforehand, all you have to do is compete. But the problem is because all these scouts and all these people are coming to watch that person, you then like try to do too much. And that trying to do too much fucks you up mentally. Then it gets you out of your flow state, and that's going to fuck up your mechanics. And then ultimately, your performance won't be the highest it could ever be because that part right there, trying too hard.
Psychologically, that anxiety is not going to release the correct chemicals in your brain. You're going to start having more self-doubt. The signals that you're sending your body, so we're going to get nerdy. The signals that you're sending your body are now going to be inhibited to the ability and the fine tune that you need. Because now you're stressed out. Now your heart rate's elevated. Now you're breathing through your mouth. So you're just releasing hormones that are going to keep negatively affecting you
Mm-hmm.
versus if you practice being in that state, like physiologically in that state, you release positive ones and you're like it feels like you already know that you're the man
Mm-hmm.
and you don't really need to prove it to them. i'm going to show you I'm going to show you this is what I do. I'm not proving it to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you where I'm going to go play.
Yeah. And again, that I love that word, the prove, right? If you know you're great and you've already put the work in, you don't have to prove fucking nothing to nobody. Because internally you know who you are. But again, when people start to come out, you want to prove yourself. And then that's when you start to get out of your sync, your rhythm, your flow state. And again, that's why it's gonna
Hmm.
cause the detriment to your performance. It's the I need to show out. I need to impress that scout. I need to impress that lady in the stands. I need to impress that
The
coach.
lady, bro. How old is that
We all been
lady,
there.
bro?
Oh, we all been there.
Mom, I love you. Watch me
We all been
play.
there. We all been there.
The lady.
But it's the prove me state, and I've even went through it where speaking personally for myself is I always knew my dad was in the stands. I was always trying to prove to my dad that I was
The man.
the man. I'm gonna prove to you that like all this time and effort that you put into me will not go to waste. And until I found my flow state of my looking at my back, I used to write an acronym my in the dirt before I would hit. So it would be EFU, and then the U would turn into a smiley face. Watch this. So EF stood for embrace the fear. What I was afraid of, internally I found this out, was
That's where I was
I'm
going
afraid.
next.
What I'm afraid of is my dad being super upset with me. That was the biggest one. I'm afraid of letting my dad down. So me writing EF allowed me to embrace the fear, knowing that yo, like my dad's still gonna love me at the end of the day, dog. Like you tripping for no reason. FU, so the EFU. So now FU stood for fuck everybody up. Like fuck everyone. I would literally, my uncle told me, like literally look in the stands and imagine you're just flipping the freaking bird to everyone. I don't give a fuck what you think. I don't give a fuck
Caca.
what you think. I don't give a fuck what you think. I don't care about what anybody fucking thinks. It's just me. And then the smiley face, that was the U, and then the two dots, was to have fun. We're playing a fucking game. Relax. It's a game. We're playing a little kid game, but at the end of the day, that's the point. And writing those three little words allowed me to relax. And then I would go compete and then play at my highest potential. Um,
Kyle's
so
best clip ever.
dead, I know.
Kyle's
Clip it,
best
clip it,
clip
clip
ever.
it,
Clip
clip
it
it.
going viral. Boosted. Mi amor. Sarah will be so
Uh,
happy. If, in case anyone missed it. Another reason, one of the big reasons you're choking or having anxiety or having to prove it to yourself, internally, you have unsolved thoughts that you have not figured out. And That one's an external. You're trying to externally validate yourself.
Mm,
And until you get over that, there's probably a high argument that you're not going to be able to reach that level.
mm,
Once you're confident about your own development because you've already put in the work, that then goes away. That gets to be clear off your conscious. And then that weight is no longer interfering with how you're signaling out. You're internally, this is just for me. Y'all get to witness greatness. Y'all
yeah.
get to see it.
A lot of going back to the pro guys, what I see in the difference from the pro guys to the college guys to the high school kids is when you're in high school and you're in college, at least toward me, they're always trying to prove to me. They're
Hmm.
trying to prove to me that like they're doing well. So like if there's a group of five and they're all spread out, I can see if I'm looking and they'll be doing exercise and they'll peek over at me to see if I'm looking.
What do you tell them?
I'm like, what are you looking at? Like, go. I'm watching you go. And they're like, oh yeah, 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 I'm going. But I can tell you're seeking the attention, the look at me, the external. Like, I want to prove to Coach Kyle that I'm doing shit correctly. But the difference with the pro guys,
They're just going to work.
they just go to work. They don't. They're not looking at me. They don't really care, and they hold themselves to that standard with the attention from social media, which is everyone loves to post. Look at me, look at me, look at me. The attention, the external factor. I would love the pro guys to post more so that way I can get more people. But I respect it because that tells me they don't give a fuck what no one
Okay.
thinks. They don't care about the look at me workout, look at me hit, look at me whatever. They don't care about any of that because they know inside of themselves already that they're great. They don't need to prove it to anyone, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, do you tell that high school kid anything?
Depends on where they're at mentally. So I start to have conversations with them as they start to get a little older and I feel like they're ready for that conversation of, hey, like if they've gone through some struggles with performance anxiety of throwing bad in front of people or whatever, I'll start to have those questions. Well, how did you do? I did all right. I did pretty good. Okay, tell me about it. And then they'll go through it and they're like, you're like, okay, so you did all right. Yeah, you did okay. But like, then I start to think about like, okay, how can I get them to realize why they didn't do great? And I get you're not always going to play great. I understand that. You're not always going to play great, but can I get them to start realizing the external or internal factors that they need to deal with of why they didn't perform at a higher level that I know that they can reach, that I know that they can reach. And it takes multiple conversations about learning individually who they are and again what makes them tick. That was my biggest thing is I didn't know what made me tick inside, what gave me anxiety. So you're like, okay, so how did you feel? You know, did your body feel good? They're like, yeah, my body felt great. Okay, so you know it's not physical. So then I check that box off. Okay, it's not physical. So
There
then,
you go.
okay,
Kyle's learning and
so then what?
growing.
I don't know. So then you're like, okay, you're a child. Let me explain this. So it's like, I think it's mental. And they're like, no, and then they go hardo like, no, 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 I'm good, bro. And I'm like, okay.
There's so many layers on this.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna tell you what I think it is, okay, and then I'm gonna leave it. I'm just gonna let it marinate with you because they're not ready to receive anything back from me. So I have to just put it in their mind for a little bit and then come back to it again and again. And over time, they start to grow and realize like, okay, I can kind of see where you're coming from now. Like
Mm.
I do feel a little tighter when I'm and then you're like okay now. So why did you feel tight? Why couldn't you find your flow state or why couldn't you execute your pitches today? And it's not physical. We already established that. So if it's not physical, then what is it? And then we'll go into whether it's the scouts, whether it's a internal thing with parents or whatever, pleasing people, and then once they understand that, then we start to work on how to deal with that, those processes of how to breathe, look into your bat, find your flow state again. So that's how I kind of go through it.
Hmm. Something that I use when I encounter something similar is if I know the person doesn't know they're young or unaware, I start giving them options. Or like when I coach
Mm,
my Lucas,
mm,
like, are you scared? Are you sad? Are you Or do
Oh.
you see?
Okay, okay,
Because
okay.
then you're like, then you can go through each one of those, then they can start to identify. So
Mm,
what you did is bring attention to how they're feeling. So then the next time it came about, they're like, oh, I recognize that now. So now, if you wanted to use that method, that helps me start to teach them. So instead of just saying mental, because mental's too broad, then you're like, are you scared? Are you nervous? Which one of those? And then now you have a map for yourself to walk them through. Like, if you're scared, what are you scared of? And then you keep going down that list till you find what seems like you can't go any lower. What
mm,
are you scared of? Are you getting scared of getting cut? Are you scared of the coach? Are you scared of mom? Are you scared of your teammates? Are you scared of yourself? And even a higher level, when I noticed the thing that you noticed was deflection. And then you go, okay, hey, you see that moment? You know how you feel uncomfortable with this conversation? Because now what started happening to me, what I started recognizing, which is what you're recognizing, is you're detached and you can see that emotion come. And you can, depending on what level they're on, you can go, okay, you see this little interaction where you're kind of defending yourself? Take that in for a second. Why is that happening? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm on your side? Like
mm,
there's something going on, so you're not agreeing versus trying to hear me. You might not be able to hear me right now because you got defensive, that's fine. But now you start to get that pattern and you're really trying to get them to break down that pattern so they can grow. That's their edge. They're trying to hold their identity because you're challenging their identity.
mm.
And then you can go back and forth where you can let them loose on keep having them self-discover, or when I feel like the moment's right, I just go straight shot. I think you played terrible. You sucked.
Oh, but like, but you need some of that though.
Sometimes, yeah. So you
You,
have to build the
it's a rare moment,
rapport,
but you need
and
some of
then
that.
I ask for permission of like, do you mind if I give you feedback? It's gonna suck, but let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah,
I think you suck
yeah.
because of these reasons. What do you think? And then now I can go back and forth on the conversation. And remind you, I'm on your team. I'm trying to help you. Here's how I think we can build some skills to overcome that. And
Mm,
then all the other training is going to come. And that's like, that's fine. Like this little piece, imagine, and then I have them try to imagine if you overcome this, what does this person look like now? And they're like, that's kind of dope. Yeah, it's supposed to suck.
yeah.
And then you can kind of guide them from there. That's what has helped me.
Mm,
And then what really starts to happening now, they're hyper aware and they can start to
okay.
see that from themselves and then they come back to you with like, yo, I'm still nervous as shit, bro.
And you're like,
Like, yeah,
yes,
and now you have way better
yes,
conversations of being very
yes,
specific. What are
yes.
you nervous about? Okay, well, let's hit another 100 balls. I don't know how it works in baseball, but
Yeah.
like so that you don't feel nervous anymore. What would we
Mm,
need to do to take that nervousness day?
mm,
Do we need to do this one task every single day?
mm.
It could also be like I go back to the affirmation thing too. I'm great because I'm nervous. Nervous might mean that you care so
Yeah,
much
yeah,
and you're scared of your own identity being blown up. You might fail. And then so like okay, then let's practice saying that you are great because you are nervous. And so they're like then they start accepting that.
yeah.
Like being great is not is what I posted today that goes over everyone's head, but I thought it was a fire post. Sometimes, I don't. My struggles, bro. Greatness is so expensive.
It is,
It's so expensive.
and not everyone wants to pay the price,
No one pays the price, or you
unfortunately.
just become depressed like I do.
But that's always like that's the greatest thing is like there's a reason why there's only so many people in sports that are considered great, the greatest of all time. MJ, if you're an MJ guy, if you're a LeBron guy, I'm a Kobe guy. I love Kobe, but three players out of how many people played in the league?
Thousands, right?
Thousands, maybe almost millions now at this point. Like it's hard to be great, but you have to do all these little things with also the training, with also the sleep, with like there's a bunch of things that you have to do to be great. Um, and then sorry, but going back to something that you said was, trying to figure out what works for you. I think that's the hardest part that I'm finding is everyone is different with how they find that state of like what
Hmm.
gets you to slow down. and trying to get the kids to practice, which is like, hey, like this is gonna be a tough one for me because this is something I don't know. I know we know the problem. Now internally yourself, you have to figure out how to get yourself out of that. Do you look at the bat? Do you take a deep breath? Do you write something in the dirt? The Stanford Ace last year, which I amazing picture, but I thought was a kook, but it made sense. I was sitting there at a game watching Drew play, and before every uh, start of the inning, he would just blankly stare, just stare into like left field. You just looking, and everyone's like, what a kook! Like, what is that fool doing? Like, throw the ball." And in my head, I'm like, "He's got it." Like in that moment, I was like, "That's his trigger. That's what gets him to breathe." So
Hmm.
going back to as an athlete, you have to find and practice and experiment with different things that actually get you to breathe. Because everyone can try to look at the bat, like maybe what Johnny does doesn't work for you. Maybe me writing the thing helped me, but it doesn't help you. So it's a hard thing of once we know what's going on, you then have to put it into practice and experiment with yourself to find what truly works for you at
Hmm.
the end of the day.
And it's just at that point, you're just trying things till you like one.
Exactly.
So then
And
it's not really that hard. You're just left with finding it,
mm,
and then you can go from there.
yeah, so that was fire. Oh my lord, we were getting real good at this. Oh my lord. Dang.
Bye.